So here we're in, and so I'm showing the iPad version right now. So the iPad and the iPhone are a little different. So if anybody wants me to show the iPhone version at some point, then just let me know and I'll switch to that. With the new integrated app, you'll see on this landing page, you have both this little calendar and this little person with lines. So this is the schedule view when you're clicked on the calendar, and then this is the little person. This is your rounding list for inpatient. I'm going to start, if you click on your name at the bottom, there are a couple of things you can do from here. You can set and change your PIN. So that's the 4-digit code you'll use for when your phone goes to sleep and you're logging back on. You can refresh the screen. It refreshes automatically, so typically you don't need to do this, but if you feel like something isn't refreshing correctly, you can go here and do it. There's some guided tour and input there if you want to learn some things. We'll skip that. And you can also log out from here. Logging out is helpful if things just don't seem to be working quite right. Sometimes you can log out and log back in and it works better. The other thing you can do here is reset your specialty. So where it says specialty under your name, you can click on that and set a specialty. If you do surgeries at all, you definitely want to click surgery, because otherwise you can't get the operative note type on all types of surgery. Done there, and we'll go back. So I'll start with the schedule view. So some things you'll want to do from the schedule view. So up at the top, you'll see this little grid. And if you click on that, it'll show you the schedules that are active. So I have a few schedules that I might flip between. And you can, if let's say you want to edit that, you can then edit that, toggle which ones belong to you. You can add schedules. The one we're using today is called Phys 3, and you can see that it's actually already added. And you can remove them by clicking the little red spot, and you can delete the schedule. I don't need to see Dr. Frias's schedule anymore. So here we've got those ones done. So I'm showing this Phys 3 schedule. So this is the day view. There's no appointments for today on this schedule. The other useful one is this where it says week, and you can click on that, and it gives you a month-long display. If there are patients scheduled, you'll see a blue dot on that day. That dot gets darker if that dot gets darker if there are more patients. So it's this kind of a heat map. And if you have a lot of patients, it'll be a darker color than if you have fewer patients. I'm going to go ahead and go to this Friday where there was a patient scheduled. That's the patient that we'll start with and looking at. So things that you can see from your schedule. You'll see under the name the reason for visit, and then underneath confirmed, it'll also say checked in or seen by nurse, depending on the patient's status. And this the little bar next to the patient's photo on the left-hand side will change colors. So when the patient's ready for you to be seen, it'll be green. So I'm going to go ahead and open this chart here. This is the review page. So where you'll start here is by reviewing the chart. You'll be able to see the chief complaint. This isn't an outpatient visit. If it's an outpatient visit, it'll actually say bring up the number of notes within the last 6 months, not the last 72 hours. It'll also show your last note if you've had a note during that time. You can also click on More, and this will show the default is up here. It says where it says Notes, Diagnostics, Pathology, and All. So the default is a note type filter. You can filter by date, filter by authors. You can just look at physician's notes if you want. You can filter by note types. And so all the note types that are available on this patient will be displayed here. And then you can also filter by inpatient or outpatient encounters on the iPad app. You can also create filters so that include all those different things, and you can then set that filter. So you can create a filter and then set it as your default notes filter if you want a different default than what the standard notes filter is. Things that might make you want a different default filter. So if you use the power forms for the pediatric health maintenance, and it gets labeled as the pediatric ADLs, and that one is called a power note filter, or power. It'll come to me in a little bit, but that filter is a different note type, and so you can create a filter that includes notes and that note type, because that one won't be brought in. The other one that people have wanted on their default note filters is physical therapy notes. If you do a lot of physical therapy referrals and you want to be able to see those notes on your default filter, and that's really up to you. From here, you can then click on those notes. On the iPad, you can also then scroll back and choose different notes as well. And another thing you can do from the notes, if you just pull that note down, you can then search the document. So if you want to search the document for diabetes, it will show you, and it said no matches. If there was anything in that note talking about diabetes, here this patients on Zoloft. So when I do that, it'll go directly to where it finds that term in the note, and so you can actually search the notes that way. That's kind of useful. Vital signs. Today's vitals will show up for the outpatient visit. If you click back on a vital sign, it'll show you previous results, and it will also show you graphing for results. This patient doesn't have any within the look back period that it's showing on this, because it's showing here it will show it for the weight, and it's showing it as an inpatient visit, so the look back period is shorter. For outpatient, that look back period will be longer. So that's for the vitals. Eyes and nose are available on inpatient visits, and if there are eyes and nose documented, you'll see a graph, and it'll have bars, and you can drill down some of the details, but not all of the details for the eyes and nose. It will also display your problems. So things you can do with the problems here, you can add a problem. And so, you can add diabetes, and you can either type or dictate into this field. So I'll go ahead and add type 1 diabetes, and then you can choose which you want to. I'm going to put it as chronic. I want me to put it as chronic. There we go. And you can add comments if you want to add comments. And you can do all those things, and then I'm just going to go ahead and save that. You can also remove things, or modify them. So this was an existing. I clicked on the cerebellar ataxia, and it's active. I put this on the wrong patient, so I'm going to just cancel that here and save that. And then let me go back to the previous screen. Existing ones, sorry, this is a new, there we go. If you pull it to the left, you can assign it to this visit. And this little, you can see the little blue exclamation point. If it's red with an exclamation point, then it isn't specific enough for billing. But if it's blue with an exclamation point, you can then click on it, and this is your diagnosis assistant here. And so you can then choose the right, more specific code from there, and then it disappears once it is a more specific code. You can also review historical problems so things that have resolved, you can review from that section. You can see allergies, and you can also add allergies. You will see the little plus, and if you click on that, you can then search the allergies, and you can put in all kinds of details for the allergies. So I'm going to go ahead and betadine. And so I can choose a betadine allergy, and I can put the category, the type, the severity, and the type of reaction if I want, and I'm just going to save that there. And now you can see it updated the allergies. Home medications. This is just a view only section on this review page. You can order medications from the app, and I'll show you how to do that.
Is that only on the iPad app, or can you do that with the iPhone app as well?
Yeah,
Ordering medication.
you can order prescriptions on either. You can't order inpatient medications,
Oh,
which does
okay. Yeah.
include in-office medications.
Okay, that's good to know. And
Yeah.
is there a big reason why we can't do inpatient medicines?
So the reason is the app does not support discern alerts, those little
Uh,
warning boxes that show up,
right.
and so that's why we can't do medications in inpatient.
Oh,
At some point, the app should support those, and then we'll be able to turn on medication ordering for inpatient.
okay. All right, that's good to know.
Yeah. So as we go through, you can also review in-office medications. You can review visits, and if you click on them, you can get more information. On the iPad, but not the iPhone, you also get a graphing of their kind of a timeline of their visits as well. Laboratory results, you'll see the different types of laboratory results the patients had, and then if you click on those, it'll show the actual results. And you can change the look back period to look at more results. And if you click on them in the iPad version, you'll get a graph. On the iPhone version, you'll just get the list of previous lab results. And I didn't show, but I should have, on the vitals, you'll notice here it says US or metric. You can actually toggle back between pounds and kilos. You can see the kilos and the pounds just toggling back there. It's really helpful for if the patient says, so what was my weight in pounds? And you can do that. And then this little squiggly line here, if you click on that, you'll launch the growth chart. This is a fake patient, so their weight is all over the place. But it will bring up the CDC growth chart that is appropriate for that patient's age, and you can look at then all of the different growth charts for this patient.
That looks a lot sexier than the actual one on Cerner.
The
Looks
growth
good.
charts are pretty, aren't they? The growth charts are only available on the iPad version, and I think that means that, for patients that take care of kids, there's a strong draw for having the iPad version for those people. 'Cause yeah, they're pretty. And they're very easy to access as you're looking through things. And it makes it really nice. Yeah. We're going back to the review. So we looked at labs. You can also look at imaging results. And this patient doesn't have any imaging results. Scan documents are not available. One thing with the scan documents is they take a while to load. So if you click on them, it'll be blank for longer than you expect it to, and eventually it will load. But you can review scan documents now on the app. It doesn't take too long. It just takes longer than you might expect it to. TAF, again, you can review from here. You can always click on more to get more results. For the immunization history, this part's pretty cool. Each of these dots is an administration. If you click on it, you can look at more details about what was given. So you'll see some patients who are well immunized who have, 3 or 4 dots under each label on the immunization history. And if you click here where it says CDC, it will display the appropriate CDC recommended immunization schedule for that age. So this is a kid, so you get the kids version. If you had an adult, it would launch to the adult immunization recommendation. So that's pretty cool. So the histories, most of these are review only. You can review social, family history, and procedure history. If you click on those things, you'll get more details. The one thing that you can add from here is tobacco history. So tobacco history was not recorded, and I'll go ahead and record that here. And you can record all those details as well, and then save it. So that's kind of nice. You can do your meaningful use stuff from there. So now we're getting into documentation. So on the review page, there are 3 documentation boxes that you can use.
I think that Dr. Salinas asked if there was a pregnancy summary on there.
So everything OB related is not on Touch at the moment. So it does mean for those of us who do OB that you do have to go back and forth between the desktop and the app. I kind of have both open most of the time during the day, and then just use. But you have to use the desktop for the OB patients, unfortunately. Eventually, I'm sure we'll be able to use it, but you can't right now. So you can use these text boxes to dictate text into. If you were to dictate text into these boxes, you could then include them into a dynamic doc on the desktop, or a PowerNote on the desktop. If you use the workflow pages, or if you launch your note after completing these sections on the desktop, it will automatically include what you've put into these sections into the appropriate
Good, how are you?
doc note. Is there a question? Okay. So for the dictation, I'm going to go ahead and dictate into here. You'll see that there's actually 2 microphone icons. The one you want to use is the one in the upper right corner. The patient came because they have pelvic pain. The microphone's really sensitive, so remember to turn it off when you want to chat, or it will end up in your dictation. There is no training involved for the dictation for this. You can just get started with it. And it actually works very well. You can see that was pretty accurate, except for the part where I wasn't actually trying to dictate. And so on the demo, it ends up being a little bit less accurate, but in real life, it ends up being quite accurate. A couple of other things you can do: if you click on that microphone and hold it down, you'll get this new screen. And this has details on how to dictate in Powerchart Touch. And it also will show you your commands. And why is it? There we go. So what you can say. So everyone will have auto texts, these dot auto texts. These were created by Dr. Patterson for Dragon dictation, and there are quite a few in here that you can use for templates if you'd like to use those. And you just say, dot procedure IND, and it'll bring in that one. I have a whole bunch of my own that I've imported, and so if you create Dragon voice templates on the desktop, you can then have them synced with Touch, so that then you can use those voice templates in Powerchart Touch. You can't create the templates directly in Touch.
And I maybe I just can't find it. I've tried to figure out how to import it. Is it importing from the Dragon app or importing from the?
It is not something you can do yourself. So if you have Dragon voice templates that you've created, then what you would do is you would send an email to the help desk, and there is somebody who's not me who is assigned to sync those templates, and then they'll do it, and they'll hopefully let you know when they completed it, and then you can use them in Touch.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Okay. And so so you can use any of these three boxes. There are also dot phrases associated with these three boxes. So if you dictate into this, so I've dictated into this history of present illness box, and then I'm going to click save right here. So now this is saved. So if I went to the desktop and I put in dot history of present illness, it would put what I have dictated into this and saved in this box into wherever I chose to put it into the note. So that can be helpful as well for creating notes. A lot of notes I create partially on the desktop, partially in Powerchart Touch, and that works really well actually. To create a note directly within Powerchart Touch, on the iPad, you can see down here we're at review, and then there's order, and then there's document. So we can go to document, and you can create a note. These are the note templates that are available to you. I'll go ahead and let's see, I'll do a history and physical note here. The one thing you have to do on all the notes is select a note type. And so what you have as a default in here is set on the desktop. So I created a user note type filter here, and so these are the notes that I use. And you should have position note types available, or you can have all of them if you want to sort through all of them, but I promise you don't. So this is going to be a GYN office clinic note. If I want to select a different title, I can just put a different title on here if I want to. So I'll put a pre-op H&P. And then you can then complete your note here. If you, for these sections, if you want to remove them, just click on the header and you can remove the note. If you've done that and you said, oops, that's not what I wanted to do, you can restore it. You can also refresh a section. So if you add a diagnosis and then you want to refresh your assessment and plan, you can do this. You can't keep the text and refresh it like you can currently on the desktop. So if you do have text that you want to save, you may want to copy and then paste it into the note if you want to refresh it. And from here, you can either, if you select those three little lines, you can save the note or you can sign the note. One thing that I might do is save the note from here and then go onto the desktop and add one of the smart templates, like let's say a dot prenatal labs that brings in all of the labs into that section. Once you sign the note, then you can only make edits at the bottom of the note on the desktop. So if you want to include labs into your lab section on the desk using a smart template, then you would save the note and not sign it, and then you can go to the desktop and it'll be there. And then the other thing you can do is order from here. And so
Dr. Brecht-Doscher, could I ask a quick question regarding the assessment and plan problem in the note?
Yeah.
How well do those, like, say I created a note on Touch and then went to go over to my Cerner, would the note pop up with everything that I've currently saved in Cerner?
Yeah. So if you save it, the every once in a while they're doing an update or something like that, and there's a cloud delay. But most of the time you hit save, and then you might have to refresh your screen on the desktop. But once you refresh your screen, your note is there, and you can see everything that you have saved in Touch.
And then if I create a note on the desktop and save it, am I able to open it in Touch and start editing it as well?
So you can't edit a note that you started on the desktop. So
okay.
Once that note is started on the desktop, you can't edit it in Touch, but you could dictate a section and then add it to that note on the desktop using one of those dot phrases, using the components on the review page.
Okay, got it.
Okay. So here is ordering. So first it'll show you the orders that the patient already has. So these are, let's see, this, so any, like a new feature on the iPad that is driving me crazy. You can discontinue and refill medications directly from here. You just swipe to the left. So let's say I'm going to refill. Once you have an order that is completed, you'll see the little sign here. If it's in red, it means there's an order detail that's not that you need to fill out. So this isn't a real patient, so I'm not going to send it to the pharmacy. And then you can sign it, and so you can order directly from there. If you do want to send it to the pharmacy, we'll go back to that. We'll refill here, and now it wants to. Let's see if I can. This one wants to go to the CVS pharmacy. When you select a pharmacy for the medications, it will actually bring up a Google map, and you can select a pharmacy based on the location. So when the patient says, I want the pharmacy that's on the corner of Victoria and Telegraph, you can make sure that you pick the right one. And that's pretty cool, actually. You can add orders by using the little plus sign here. It will display your most frequent 50 last orders that you've done in Touch, and you can just choose one from there. So I think I'll give this kid some birth control pills. If you want to order other, like a lab or something like that, you can order a lab fresh from that done. So you can see there's some order details missing in these. The CBC, it's all the things we're familiar with. You do have to associate with a diagnosis for that visit. So that one's done. And it looks like we still have another one here. There we go. There was a problem. So now I'm going to click on the pharmacy. Let me search for a pharmacy. I'll show you how that works. No. Well, I won't do this right now. Apparently, I don't have the location settings to access. But here we go. So you can choose a pharmacy based on the map.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
And so we'll select that one, the CVS and Target. So now we have all of the settings correct, although I'm going to change this back because I don't want to actually send it to Target. And then I'll sign all of these orders, which I can sign from here. Things you can't do from here, we talked about inpatient and in-office medications. You can't do power plans or care sets from here, but you can do pretty much every other lab from here. There isn't a way to batch order a lot of, like, associate diagnoses. You have to do each lab individually, and so when I'm ordering a whole lot of things, I usually end up going to the desktop to do it. But it is kind of nice for when you're ordering a couple of different things. I love it in inpatient. If I go see a patient and I'm like, the patient didn't get their CBC this morning, I can order the CBC while I'm walking down the hallway to go see the next patient. And that's kind of nice. And so, if you might be, checking in on your patient while you're sitting in a meeting, and you notice, one of their labs was abnormal, or you want to order something for a follow-up lab, you can just order it right there while you're sitting in your meeting. It's kind of nice. So that's order.
And you said that order sets aren't available. Are you able to save orders as favorites in Touch, or no?
So you can order from your favorites in Touch. And so if we're going to order, I'm going to add an order, you can go to your folders and you can order from your favorite folders. But
okay.
You can't create favorites in Touch.
Okay. All right. So if I created a favorite elsewhere, it will be able to be ordered.
Yes.
You just can't do order sets like the OBGYN pre-op cesarean.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay. And so then let's go back here. That's pretty much the chart review and the ordering. And we'll go over the rounding list and the patient lists for inpatient. So this is how you'll launch your charts for inpatient. And there are a couple of different ways of bringing up patients. So one would be to use a patient list. And so I don't want to bring up any real patients here, so I'm going to bring up this Powerchart Touch service, which is I have a patient on here, and then you can launch the chart from there. The other way to do it is this thing called a rounds list. And so if I select my rounds list, if there's any discharged patients, you can remove those discharged patients there. And then you can save your rounds list. You can bring in patients from other lists. Once you're on your rounds lists, rounds list, you can then add patients. So if I want to add one from my Powerchart Touch service, actually all of the patients are there, but if this patient wasn't on my service, I would be able to select all or select that patient and then add it to my list. So you could be using, you can be seeing patients from different services if and assign them to yourself. You can also search for patients for actual patients by clicking the search box. So from here, you can search for a patient. If you're trying to search for a patient, what you'll first need to do is select an encounter. And we all know from the desktop that that's an important step to search for encounter, and then it opens that chart. I'm going to go back to the rounding list. Some other things you can do from the, if you search for a patient from the rounding list and then you want to, so I'm in this patient and then I want to add that patient to my rounding list. You can get the physician handoff here. You can enter the physician handoff, and you can also assign the patient to me or delete your assignment. So I'll go ahead and delete the assignment on this one. And then you can see that patient was removed. The other way to remove patients from your list is just to swipe to the left and you can delete them. I like using the rounding list as kind of my, as I go through the rounds for postpartum rounds, I just delete the patients off of my rounding list, and that way I know that I'm done and I've done their notes. And then the ones I keep are the aunties or the ones in labor that I might need to look back at their chart later in the day. I'll keep them on my list. And otherwise, the inpatient and the outpatient, the functionality is very similar. I'm going to bring back up that patient, the power plan patient. Let's see, what was the oncology one? And that one. Because I put some vital signs in here. So the one thing that's different in the vital signs is it will show you Tmax and min, the heart rate max and min, respiratory rate will show you max and min for the last 24 hours, which is kind of nice for those. And the other thing is that for inpatients, here it's showing the medications. It doesn't typically show the medications. You can see here's a patient who's gotten a lot of vaccines and has a lot more documented doses.
It actually has immunization history. That's cool.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. So that's pretty much everything. Yeah, this is what I didn't show you guys, is the banner bar. So under the banner bar, if you click on where the patient's name is, you'll get these things. So encounter details. The one thing that's helpful, very helpful with this for outpatient is that this will show you the room number. So the room number doesn't show on the schedule, but the room number does show here. For inpatients, it'll actually show up on the upper right-hand corner, which is really nice. The other thing that you'll go into here a lot with is to take patient photos. So this is how you get those patient photos that are on the banner bar. You just click on the camera here, and then you can take a picture, and that becomes your patient's photo. You can also review things like insurance information, pharmacy. The family contacts doesn't really work. And then you can review their care team information from here as well.
Hey, I have a question about the Capture app.
Uh-huh.
Sorry, since we're on the topic of photos, I've learned how to use it for the patient's own photo.
Uh-huh.
But my question is, I'm wondering if there's a way